Summary of Dreaming in Cuban by Cristina García. In 1972, Celia del Pino is standing watch over the northern coast of Cuba in her best house dress and pearl earrings. Jorge, her husband, has been getting medical care in New York and seems to be walking on water. Celia knows from this that Jorge has died. She walks in the water and thinks about her marriage, which was hard because Jorge worked as a traveling salesman and was rarely home. Felicia, Celia's middle daughter, is very sad about her father's death. Herminia Delgado, Felicia's best friend, tells her that she should take part in a cleansing Santería rite to make peace with her father's spirit. Felicia agrees, even though she hates the blood of sacrificed animals. In the meantime, Lourdes, Celia's oldest daughter, lives in Brooklyn, New York, and runs a successful bakery there. Lourdes is sad about the death of her close friend Jorge, and she finds out that her 13-year-old daughter Pilar has run away. Pilar saw her father, Rufino, having an affair, so she chose to go back to Cuba, where she was born. Pilar has always been very close to her grandma Celia, and she and Lourdes often fight. Celia will sometimes talk to Pilar at night, even though they are hundreds of miles apart. Pilar takes a bus to Miami, Florida, where she stays with a cousin. Before she can figure out how to get a boat to Cuba, one of her aunts calls Lourdes, and Pilar is sent back to New York. Back in Cuba, Celia thinks about the affair she had with Gustavo Sierra de Armas, a married Spanish lawyer, before she married Jorge. After Gustavo went back to Spain, Celia fell into a deep sadness that hurt her a lot. Jorge came to see her while she was stuck at home and told her to write to Gustavo. Jorge thought that if Gustavo didn't write back, Celia should marry Jorge instead. Every month on the 11th, Celia has been writing to Gustavo for 25 years. She doesn't send the letters, though. Instead, she keeps them in a box under her bed. When Celia goes to Felicia's house, which used to belong to Jorge's mother Berta, she remembers how her mother-in-law hated her and made her life miserable when she and Jorge were first married. Celia's mind was broken by what happened, and she turned her infant daughter Lourdes away. After that, Jorge sent Celia to a mental institution for a while. After she was released, they moved into a house near the beach, which the doctor thought would help Celia get better. There, she had Felicia and, several years later, Javier. All this time, Celia wished for Gustavo, and Jorge knew that Celia didn't love him deeply. Now that Jorge is dead, Celia decides that she will spend the rest of her life helping elder Fidel Castro and the Cuban Revolution. He starts going to Lourdes 40 days after Jorge's death. She can't see him, but she can hear his words and smell his trademark cigar. Lourdes is worried about this, and she thinks back to when she left Cuba after Castro took over. Lourdes was pregnant with her second child. Some soldiers from the revolution came to Rufino's family farm and said that it belonged to the government now. After Lourdes yelled at the guards, she lost her baby. When the troops came back, one of them raped Lourdes while Rufino was away. Lourdes is happy with her new life and how she has changed since she moved to the United States. She hates Castro and the revolution with a passion, and she puts all of herself into her work. At this point, her biggest regret is that Pilar hates her. Felicia sometimes has crazy ideas when she is back in Cuba. The illusions are especially strong the summer after her father died. She stays inside, listens to music, and dances with her 5-year-old son, Ivanito. Hugo Villaverde, Ivanito's father, was a merchant marine who could be angry and who cheated on Felicia a lot. He even gave Felicia syphilis, which almost killed Ivanito when Felicia gave birth to him. One day, Felicia threw him out of the house by putting a burning rag on his face and permanently disfiguring him. Ivanito doesn't remember his father, and unlike his twin older sisters, Luz and Milagro, he is loyal to his mother and thinks her behavior is normal. But by the end of the summer, Felicia tries to kill herself and Ivanito. After that, Ivanito goes to a boarding school, and Felicia is sent to the mountains to join a guerrilla group. Celia hopes that the revolution will give Felicia a new sense of purpose, but Felicia doesn't care about politics. A few years later, in 1975, Lourdes became an auxiliary policewoman in Brooklyn. She was eager to put her ideas about law and order into action. Pilar has started listening to rock music and painting abstract art. Pilar is surprised when Lourdes asks her to paint a patriotic painting for the opening of Lourdes' second bakery. Pilar can't help playing a punk version of Liberty, complete with a safety pin through her nose, even though it makes her uncomfortable. At the unveiling, a disgruntled customer plans to destroy the offensive picture. Lourdes knocks him out with her handbag, and Pilar feels a rush of love for her mother. Felicia goes to a santero in 1978 because she wants a husband. The santero tells Felicia that bad things will happen in her life and gives her a healing spell to cast. However, before Felicia can cast the spell, she falls in love with Ernesto, an awkward restaurant inspector. After 4 days of happiness, a grease fire kills Ernesto. Felicia starts to think that Elder is responsible. Then Felicia goes away for a while. In July, she gets married to Otto, who works at a fun fair, but she can't remember how she got there. Otto dies one night when he falls off the roller coaster he and Felicia are riding. Felicia says she pushed Otto on purpose. After that, Felicia goes home and starts practicing Santeria with the help of her friend Herminia. She goes through the process to become a Santera. At first, she seems to find peace. But over time, she gets sick and starts to age before her time. At the end of Felicia's life, Celia kicks Felicia's witch-doctor friends out of the house, stomps on the shells they were using for reading, and holds Felicia until she dies. In 1979, Jorge stops talking to Lourdes and leaves, but not before telling her that, during the first year of their marriage, he sent Celia to live with his harsh mother because he was jealous of how much she loved Gustavo and wanted to break her spirit. Jorge tells Lourdes that Celia did in fact love her. Pilar, who has never been religious but has been feeling unmotivated lately, walks into a botanica in New York in 1980. The shop owner gives Pilar a spell to cast and tells her that after 9 days of holy baths, she'll know what to do next in her life. Before Pilar can do this, she is sexually attacked in a park. After the attack, she finds that she can read bits and pieces of people's thoughts and even see glimpses of the future. She does the right and learns that she and Lourdes must go to Cuba. They do end up going to Cuba, where Lourdes is saddened by how bad everything is and sickened by how much her mother still loves Elder. She goes back to the old Puente estate, where she was raped, and wonders if she will ever be able to get justice. She tries to get her 13-year-old nephew Ivanito, who is good at languages, to go to the US. Pilar, on the other hand, is enchanted by Cuba and is glad to finally spend time with her grandmother Celia. She paints a picture of Celia and hears about her life. Celia gives Pilar all the letters she wrote to Gustavo. Pilar also goes to see Herminia. She finds out about her Aunt Felicia's life and learns that she, too, is meant to become a Santeria initiate. Pilar asks Celia if she can paint whatever she wants in Cuba one day. Celia says that she can, as long as she doesn't attack the revolution. Right now, Cuba can't afford to have disagreements. Pilar begins to realize that, as much as she loves Cuba, she really belongs in New York. Early one morning, Lourdes drives Ivanito to the Peruvian embassy, where a large group of defectors has gathered. She tells him to leave Cuba and that she'll help him become an American citizen. Pilar drives to Havana to find them when Celia finds out they've left. She finds Ivanito in the crowd, but she lets him go and tells Celia she couldn't find him. After some time, Celia is back on her own, so she goes for a deep swim in the ocean. She goes under the water and takes off the pearl earrings that Gustavo gave her. It's not clear if she ever comes back or not.
About the author. Cristina García was born to a father from Guatemala and a mother from Cuba. After Fidel Castro's Cuban Revolution in 1961, García's family was one of the first groups of people to flee to the United States. García was 2.5 years old at the time. García grew up in Queens, Brooklyn, and Manhattan, all of which are parts of New York City. She went to Barnard College to study political science, and then she went to Johns Hopkins to get a master's degree in international affairs. After living in Italy and Germany for a while, Garcia moved to Miami and got a job as a writer. In 1984, when Garcia went back to Cuba for the first time since he was a child, he felt torn between Cuba and the Cuban refugee community in Miami. This made him ask questions about his identity that later became the basis for his book Dreaming in Cuban. A National Book Award was almost given to the book. Garcia gave birth to her daughter Pilar 6 months after the book came out. Her later books, like King of Cuba, Monkey Hunting, and Here in Berlin, look at immigration and identity in a more general way.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.